Okay, welcome kids. Let's review for our first test. So today's review will be chapter 1 and chapter 2. And if you are, taking your APUS history class from me, this will definitely cover everything that's on the test. If you have a different teacher or you're not using the America's History book by Bedford St. Martin, you might need to add in a few things or possibly take out a few things depending on your book or your teacher. But this will definitely give you a good start. Okay, so first topic is Great Plains Indians. So when we're looking at the United States before Columbus, one of the big things is our different American Indian groups. And so one of the best ones to look at will be our Great Plains Native Americans. Now, for the AP test, you don't need to know so much, exactly what the Comanche did or the Apaches or the Sioux, but in general. So if we're looking at our Great Plains Native Americans, one of the big things that should come to mind is that they were migratory. They relied on the buffalo, and so were nomadic hunters and gatherers and used every aspect of the buffalo. Now, they also traded with other Native American tribes to get other goods. So they would trade meat and hides and other animal products to get corn and clothing and other kind of tools and other kind of things. Now, another big aspect to know will be the horses, right? That their lives change dramatically when the Spanish bring horses over. Okay, let's go on to our Southwest American Indians. So these would be your Pueblo, your Hopi, thinking New Mexico, little Colorado, Arizona. Now, some of the big qualities or big characteristics of our Southwest Native Americans would be adapting the environment. So they did rely on agriculture, right? Your maize culture or corn, but they did have to irrigate in order to, have those crops get enough water in the dry climate. So irrigation, as well as the adobe houses and the cliff dwellings, excuse me. Okay. Our Mississippi Valley Indians, these would be, the big group would be your American Indians from Cahokia or Cahokians. Now, they're best known for their mounds, right? There's the Serpent Mound, different platforms that we think were for religious ceremonies or political structures, and then burial mounds. And so they're also known for adapting the environment. And your Cahokians, of course, are known for having a complex civilization. So a complex civilization is not only large, so several thousand or more, 30,000, something like that, and then having social classes, a rigid hierarchy, as well as diversified labor, right? Division of labor, laws, well set up government, language, writing, those kind of things. And so the Cahokians are probably the one civilization in the U.S. part that had a really complex society, kind of similar to the Aztecs. Okay, another big aspect will be the use of land, and so our Native Americans versus European ideas of how to use the land. So your Native Americans didn't have the concept of owning land. They thought the land belonged to the earth. How could you own it? It's not something that you could own, right? That's the earth's, and so they had the idea of really taking care of the land. You only hunt what you need. So you don't want to kill too many deer or too many buffalo, right? You only want to take what you need, and that way preserve the earth so that it can keep providing for you. And so then your Europeans come in and they have kind of opposite belief, right? They believe in owning the land, fencing it off, claiming it, and that others can't use it. So when Europeans arrived, Native Americans were like, yeah, sure, you can use the land. They didn't have any idea that they were going to try to own that and keep others off that piece of land. And of course, your Europeans also tried to justify taking the land from the Native Americans, and they would do that by saying, well, the Native Americans aren't using it. They're not on this section of land, or they haven't built a structure there. They haven't built a house. They haven't farmed in this area. They haven't modified it in some kind of way. And so they would say, oh, the land is going to waste, so why can't I use that? And so that'll definitely be a source of conflict between your Native Americans and your Europeans. Now, also keep in mind gender, right? Different ideas of gender. Your Native Americans had more gender equality. Women were definitely equals. And some tribes, they could be chiefs. Others, they couldn't. Some tribes are matriarchal. Others are patriarchal. But they definitely had more value. In almost every Native American society, women were equal or almost equals to men. And then, of course, we know our Europeans, very patriarchal, women have a lesser status. And so there's a lot of mistrust between Native Americans and Europeans. They don't have the same ideas with land or with gender. Okay, what's next? Native Americans in the environment. So I touched on that about, not overusing, not wasting the land. But one thing to know is that your Native Americans did adapt the environment. So I've limited my test to the Great Plains, the Southwest, and your Mississippi Valley Indians. But if your teacher adds on your Pacific coastal Indians, you might want to know that they made canoes out of the redwoods, your eastern woodlands. They adapted the environment for farming, different kind of houses and structures. So it would be good to apply that principle to all Native Americans. Okay, so commonalities between American Indians and settlers. So I think one of the big things is they all traded, right? So they all trade. Every Native American society and the Europeans, whether it's the French, the Dutch, or the English, or the Spanish, they're going to want to trade with Native Americans. And that's probably one of the big ones that they have in common. Okay, so that wraps up chapter 1. Now our test also includes chapter 2. So I'm going to add that in a separate video, and I'm going to flash my review up here for just a few more minutes or seconds. Let's see if we can get that into focus here. Okay, stay tuned for part 2.